Trump and the Trump administration has kind of tried poorly to portray the FBI search of John Bolton's properties, I think his office and his house, as anything other than retribution. John Bolton worked in the Trump administration, then became an outspoken critic of Trump. It's kind of even blurry what it is that they're claiming he did. Something classified something. I think they're claiming that when he released a book about the disaster of the first Trump administration, that they're accusing him, which they've been saying about also Miles Taylor. Critical books that talk about what they saw behind the scenes that aren't revealing sensitive classified information, but just what they saw behind the scenes, like everybody does every time they work in a White House. That is justification for investigations into did you release classified information. Now, I want to show you Trump claiming something and then JD Vance immediately contradicting him and embarrassing him, at least on that claim. But obviously the caveat that I always add is if there was actually wrongdoing, anyone and everyone should be held legally accountable. Yes, no one is above the law, obviously. But Trump has made so clear in going after media outlets, even firing people in the administration isn't like going after law firms, investigating people like Miles Taylor, investigating John Bolton, trying to make life a living hell for people like Letitia James, who's literally now being investigated by the DOJ for her investigation into Trump. Like explicitly, they're saying she deprived Trump of his civil rights, and so she's being investigated, and they're saying you need to resign. So when you have that pattern, when another enemy of Trump's, John Bolton, who I don't like personally, but I don't think he should be subjected to retribution for speaking out against Trump, then we have to see it in that context. But hey, if they uncovered something, if John Bolton turns out to be a big classified leaker, then why should he be held accountable if Trump wasn't? But okay. Or if he's a mass murderer, of course, lock him up. But that's not what this is about. So Trump originally would say, listen, I had nothing to do with this. This is just my DOJ independently working like it did under past administrations. But JD Vance will quickly contradict that.
And I have a question about the search of Ambassador Bolton's home. The vice president recently just did an interview saying that it's about classified documents, but that there's also broad concern about him. What are the concerns?
Well, I haven't spoken to Pam in the group yet, but I will be. I saw that just like everybody else. I try and stay out of that stuff. I'm allowed to be, and I'm chief law enforcement officer, believe it or not. You know, I don't like to go around saying that, but I am. That's the position. But I purposely don't want to really get involved in it. I'm not a fan of John Bolton. I thought he was a sleazebag, actually.
Yeah, and that's why this is happening. We can only expect, and it's not just me saying that. I mean, the Wall Street Journal op-ed, there's an op-ed out of the Wall Street Journal, the conservative outlet, saying Trump's vendetta campaign targets John Bolton. He promised Trump voters that it wasn't going to just be about retribution. Everyone says that, kind of. So what would happen is Trump would go, we're going to have retribution, we're going to F him up. And then the host would go, oh, right. Like, you mean you're going to mess them up by success. Like, you don't want to do retribution. And Trump would go, no, but like, if I wanted to, I definitely could. And I definitely will. But I'm not saying that I'm going to, but I'm definitely I will. I'm not going, I will. And so like, they deserve it. And the host would go, right. So like, you're not going to have time for that. That's awesome. Like, you're not about retribution. I love that. And then the rest of the media would be like, oh, interesting. I guess he's trying to argue that his retribution will just be success. That's not what he said. Why are we putting those words in his mouth? Anyways, his revenge campaign took an ominous turn Friday as FBI agents raided the home and office of Mr. Trump's first-term national security advisor, John Bolton. They brought 2 broad warrants to search the premises. Agents showed up unannounced, and they grabbed his wife's phone because she wasn't on her person. Then the FBI agents greeted Bolton at his office. It's hard to see the raid as anything other than vindictive. Mr. Bolton fell out of Mr. Trump's favor in the first term and then wrote a book about his experience in the White House while Mr. Trump was still president. Mr. Trump tried and failed to block publication. The president then claimed Mr. Bolton has exposed classified information. So I guess that's what this is about. It's very strange and obvious what's happening. Now, you remember when Trump was... so Trump was raided, after they said a bazillion times, please will you give us, please will you give us, please. The law enforcement the federal government kept saying, please will you give us the documents, please will you. Trump said, no. And they said, I gave you all the documents. Like, we think you had more. And he was like, lawyer, sign a thing saying that you saw there's no more. And obstructed, and then buried evidence. And then they went, fine, we'll take them by force, damn it. Here, that same exchange from our knowledge did not happen. But I'm curious, do you think Fox News is going to run stories being like, Mr. Bolton's wife, what's her name? Gretchen's, her underwear cabinet was searched. Can you imagine the violation? Because that's what they did when Trump was searched. For very good reason. And then they found all the stuff they were looking for. So here, are they going to do that same dog and pony show? Oh, can you imagine? They found John Bolton's sex toys. It's such a violation. I don't think so. But that's the game they played. Last go round, you have Fox News' Andy McCarthy condemning Trump's FBI raid on John Bolton. Very sad development. Now, one more Trump clip, and I'll show you J.D. Vance contradicting this.
They'll brief me, probably today sometime.
And the foreign minister...
I tell Pam and I tell the group, I don't want to know, but just you have to do what you have to do. I don't want to know about it. It's not necessary. I could know about it. I could be the one starting it. I'm actually the chief law enforcement officer.
So when he says I could, he means he did. I could have directed this. He means he did. But here's J.D. Vance. So Trump's going, but we're not... Listen, the White House isn't the one directing this. I could, but I'm not. Because even he should know how bad it looks. Not that his supporters are going to care, but how bad it looks for the president. The reason it's true that the executive branch has these enforcement powers. But the reason that barrier was set up between the White House and the Department of Justice and giving it some independence, despite obviously the president picking people for key positions, but then in its operational day-to-day decisions, you want the president to stay out in a major way. Why? For stuff literally like this. And whenever Biden, this is so annoying. I'm going to rant too long. Sorry. But whenever Biden was asked about Trump's investigations, he literally credibly could say, I have nothing. I stay completely out of that. I won't talk to Merrick Garland about that. I won't talk to anyone involved. I'm not. Imagine if Biden went, well, I didn't involve myself, but I could have, and I would have, and I did. I would. Wait. MAGA would lose their mind. But here, they don't care about prosecutorial independence or investigatory independence at all. But still, Trump's going, this wasn't us. And then J.D. Vance comes out and gives away the game. As you watch this, please do click the subscribe button. If you appreciate the show, it's free, and I appreciate it greatly.
Start with some breaking news. We've learned that the FBI is searching the home of former Ambassador John Bolton, his office as well.
Sure.
Can you tell me, why is the FBI raiding Ambassador Bolton's home and office, and did the White House get a heads up?
Well, so we're in the very early stages of an ongoing investigation into John Bolton. I will say we're going to let that investigation proceed. What I can tell you is that unlike the Biden DOJ and the Biden FBI, our law enforcement agencies are going to be driven by law and not by politics. And so if we think that Ambassador Bolton has committed a crime, of course, eventually prosecutions will come. But as you know, Kristen, this is all part of gathering evidence, trying to understand something that we're worried about. And of course, I'll let the FBI comment on the next stage of the investigation.
What's at the root of this? Is this about classified documents?
Well, again, I'll let the FBI speak to that. Classified documents are certainly part of it, but I think that there's a broad concern about Ambassador Bolton. They're going to look into it. And
what does that even mean, broad concern? There's broad concern that he embarrassed Trump. Now, the part that went viral, that is that big refutation of what Trump was saying, was he keeps saying we're going to look into it. We're doing this. We're doing that. He's pulling himself and Trump into the investigation with his language, which is not the worst staying out of that. Yeah, I don't know. It's the FBI's thing. Oh, it's we're concerned about this. We're gathering evidence, which is bonkers. Picture Vice President Kamala Harris at the time saying, yeah, we're looking into the criminal wrongdoing of Trump and we're going to see if we need to prosecute him. they'd go ballistic. MAGA would. Every time Kamala Harris or Biden were asked questions like that, they would never say we. They would say, listen, that case is separate from us. Not at all what J.D. Vance had to say. John Bolton warned days ago of retribution coming from him. He was right. And this is a part of a pattern. I mean, there's this headline, the DOJ prosecutor investigating Letitia James, the New York Attorney General, who is being investigated for her investigation or her case against Trump. And this DOJ prosecutor was out in front of her house taking pictures, taking little photographs, I guess to promote the fact that posing for photos outside of Letitia James' house to promote the fact that he's prosecuting her. Bizarre. Then Pete Hegseth fired the general whose agency's initial intelligence assessment of U.S. damage to Iranian nuclear sites angered President Trump. That's Lieutenant General Jeffrey Cruz. Fired for the report that maybe the Iranian sites weren't obliterated. This is the culture. You aren't fully loyal to Trump and you get punished. Whoops. Here is a CNN panel discussing this.
This is not okay. And they said, hey, we have enough here and believe it might be there that you can actually go raid his home and office. Again, let's just calm down and let the system work.
Right.
I don't should give any information.
I mean,
I'm just saying, it's pretty rich from John Bolton tonight.
I'm glad that you're acknowledging that the search of Mar-a-Lago would have been similarly
I used his exact words that he said about calming down. And now everybody's like, oh, it's got to be a witch hunt. Really?
Go ahead, Kristen.
No, I think, look, we don't know what the motivation was. We don't know what's going to come out of this. We have to, like we said, have to let the process play through. We do have examples of political retribution. We do in the Obama administration and the Biden administration. The 40-plus organizations that the IRS apologized to because they targeted linchpins for liberty, NorCal Tea Party. They searched organizations for Tea Party and Patriot and penalized them.
Keyword
We
the
have
IRS.
that as fact.
We
don't know what this one is yet.
That also
but
is-
we have that political retaliation.
That was not
if he did nothing wrong, he's got nothing to worry about.
The IRS
It was all made up. Everything you just said was made up.
No,
That's
not true.
But here's
Hold
a big difference between the Obama administration and the Obama.
Yeah.
It's that until
They're not
this
criminals?
administration,
Guys, hang on
there
one
has been a norm of independence between the Justice Department and the White House. And they
President didn't know about today.
And it's clear that that norm is no longer there.
That's not true. Give me evidence to prove that. Hold on. Give me evidence to prove that. The president didn't know it was happening today.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
They have dinner a lot at the White House, including in the Biden and the Obama administration.
Everyone stop talking for just a moment. All right.
Said, this is not okay.
Isn't that awesome? I think that's how we solve our political differences. That was really valuable stuff. What was that? Let's just turn our TV debate shows into a food fight. And it's literally, they have it in the food building, the Food Network, something. They're all sitting around a table. That was great. That was great stuff. Really, really helpful. Yeah, so then you have this. Naked abuse of power, Trump blasted for threat to punish Colorado if it doesn't release convicted felon. So you remember Tina Peters? She was a former election official, is in prison because of fraud that she participated in during. Peters was successfully prosecuted, her role in a scheme to breach county voting systems after the 2020 presidential election in service of trying to overturn the election results for Trump. So she's being punished for that. Trump's now threatening Colorado to let her free because he can't pardon her because it's state charges. Then going back to this J.D. Vance interview on the subject of why I am where I am, which is Russia's invasion of Ukraine. He makes this claim.
I want to get to security guarantees, but very quickly, if Russia is allowed to keep any of the territory that it illegally seized, What message does that send to China? Does it give China a green light to invade Taiwan? Does it give Russia a green light to invade other European countries, which is what your European allies are concerned about?
Well, first of all, the Ukrainians are going to ultimately make the determination about where you draw the territorial lines in their own country. But Kristen, this is how wars ultimately get settled. If you go back to World War II, if you go back to World War I, if you go back to every major conflict in human history, they all end with some kind of negotiation. We're actually not active parties.
So this also went very viral and is a pretty embarrassing JD moment. What did you say? World War II? Let's focus in on World War II. It was in a negotiation. Scary lawyer guy said unconditional surrender. Grant and General MacArthur would like a word. Yeah, I have a different memory of World War II than we were fighting it out, and then we were like, all right, Hitler, what do you want? All right, fine. How much land do you want? Tell us. How many people are you going to kill? Tell us, and then we'll make a deal. Maybe everything, and maybe you say that's not a perfect, I mean, he's the one who brought up that comparison, but yeah, sure, say it's a different situation. Fine, that's not my argument here. But to cite that is a little strange. Seems a little bit detached from history. A negotiation with Hitler. I think I'm not a historian, but I feel like I remember something happened to Hitler before we could negotiate with him. That is today's show. I do have to go. A big next couple of days. You won't see me, but hopefully in a couple of days I'll be back with a lot to report to you and a lot of content to bring to you about what I'm doing here in Ukraine. And I do appreciate all of you. I do, just in all honesty, I get kind of anxious whenever I go long periods of time without posting, that people will kind of move along and then not circle back to the show. So do be looking out Thursday, Friday, and I'll be dropping big tranches of content from what I'm doing the next couple of days. That, again, I have to keep vague. That's why I keep wording it very strangely. And I appreciate all of you so much. Podcast listeners, rate and review, and I'll talk to you all later this week.